whatever.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
And then I'll answer it as well myself. Like, in your opinion, I don't know if you've really watched it that much, but what do you think would be the reason that some of these other countries, like, and I would exclude Sweden and Finland from this because they've always been very good. So what in your opinion, what makes you think like Austria, Sweden, Germany, or Switzerland, Germany, Latvia, some of these teams, what makes you think that they compete more? Or like, you have any opinion on that?
Um, I have a very crude understanding of how those countries develop players.
Crude and what do you mean by crude?
Crude, like I
Like
don't.
oil?
I have a low level understanding. Like
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the development is like, but I know what they do with most sports that they're successful in a lot of those countries, and a lot of them are we find these kids when they're young and they're in a system where it's
Yeah.
like you do this step and this step and this step and this step and you get to where you want to go. I think the level of organization they have around the development process,
Say that sentence again.
the level of organization
Yep.
that they have in the development process for kids. So
Okay.
whether it's the school systems or the athletic systems or the combinations with the academy stuff that they
Yep.
do or whatever it is, I think that is just more conducive to developing kids until they're in adulthood. Where, because we
Yep.
talked about this in Ontario, it's like if you don't get drafted to the OHL, it's actually kind of difficult to chart a path for yourself if you still want to be a hockey player after that, right? So it's not that clear. You kind of have to make like a customized plan for yourself. Whereas there's not just a step-by-step process that you can just follow. And when you're 22, you'll come out the other end ready to go if you are successful with your development journey, let's say.
Yeah.
So if you hit 15 and you don't get drafted to the OHL, it's like, yeah, you can try to get a scholarship. You can try to work your way through other junior leagues until you get a chance for an open tryout or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's not like when you start school in JK, if you just keep going, you'll be out in grade 12 and then you're done school.
Yeah.
You know? So I think there's more of that.
There's just the one pushback we'll get on that is that people say, well, I did it. I got a scholarship. I did this. And I agree. That happens. But what you're saying is
the system.
The way you grow up in Ontario is that the OHL, CHL path is like what most people are geared to. And I think if anyone said that's a competitive player that said that, no, I wasn't interested at all, or it didn't bother me if I didn't get drafted, I think that wouldn't be totally true.
Yeah.
But there are kids that would say, no, I want to get a scholarship, and that's their path. And of course, getting drafted in the OHL would be a feather in the cap, and they might not really care that much, but they do want to get it. But then after that, it's like, like now for the typical Ontario kid, the higher end kids, it's like, they got to carve it out. They got to say, okay, now what's my next step? It's not just as simple like if we live in Minnesota or Michigan or something like that, then it's like they go to whatever AAA or high school, and then their next step is juniors. That's what they call it, juniors with an S.
Yeah.
And that could be the North American League, East USHL or whatever, and they don't even consider really anything else till they get to college, right? So
that's kind of my point.
There's no rush.
Yeah, it's like
Canada's like opposite almost.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like mapped out for you until you're 22. So it's like for me, I'm a good example.
Good process.
This. Yeah, like I'm a good example of this. I was 15 in my OHL draft year. I didn't get drafted, and then my 16-year-old year, I played midget, and I had an awesome year. But it's like, now what? So I ended up getting open tryouts in the OHL, and now I had schools talking to me. And then I was playing in a junior league in Ontario that wasn't like a super highly scouted league. So now I'm like, okay, where do I go? Like, what should I be doing? What team should I be playing for? And I have to figure out how to map out my own path, as opposed to if you grow up in the US, like you said, you can go from AAA to high school to juniors
U18.
to juniors to college, or you can go AAA to high school to US program to college. Or if you're a top tier guy, you could get plucked right out of high school and go to college. So there's like, it's already set up for you, and you just have to pick which lane you're going to go down, as opposed to creating a lane.
The pressure for an American kid to be really good at 16 is not the same as one for a Canadian
exactly.
kid. Based on, and it doesn't matter, to be honest with you, but that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
And so it just seems like an 18-year-old 18, 19-year-old American hockey player is not worried that time's running out.
Yeah. So to
Is
go,
that a way to say it?
yeah. So to bring it full circle to back to your question, like some of these other countries,
Yeah.
I think because of that, and I think also because the population is smaller, I think it's a lot easier to get everyone on the same page of what we're doing, right?
So you're saying
So
Latvia,
yeah. So if you're like
Switzerland.
Latvia,
Yeah.
Switzerland, Austria,
All right.
it's a very like, here's a term, homogeneous population.
Careful.
Yeah. Right. So there's a lot. It's a smaller population, so
Yeah.
somewhere between like let's say 5 and 20 million people in
Okay.
these countries.
Yeah.
Around that, that's probably a good estimation
Yeah, I
for
don't
each of them. It's a lot easier to have control of 10, let's say the subgroup of hockey players in a population 10 million. It's a lot easier to get them all on the same page than it is in a population of 30 something million or a population of 300 and something million in the US, all with different outlooks on how things should be run. So if you have it just brings down how difficult it is to get people on the same page to do things. So if I want to say all U8 teams have to do small area games, it's a lot. I think there'll be a lot less debate because there's just less people that are going to be complaining about things. So I think that plays a part of it as well.
Yeah.
But then I just feel like that setup of how you can develop through your youth years playing whatever sport you play, whether it's hockey or something else.
Yeah.
I just feel like they have a better pulse.
Just a base
Yeah.
Grassroots
Yeah.
programs.
Well, and that's how you can have, the whatever Finnish team. Like, what's the population of Finland? Do you know?
I don't
10 million?
know. I don't know. I don't know.
It's
I know
not-
it's a lot
It's
smaller.
not 300.
That's
so
right.
they will play in the finals against the U.S. and could win.
Well, they're great.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
like, how does that scale?
Yeah,
like,
doesn't
there's-
make sense, right?
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's kind of my initial thought on the
Yeah.
question. If you want to
Yeah.
answer now.
Yeah, no, I was curious on what you thought. I always am open to what people think about things, and well, I know that if I could look at, so one of my best friends is Paul DiPietro, right, and he just finished coaching with Lugano in the Swiss Elite League,
Mhm.
and previous to that, so he we played together in junior. You know, Paulie.
Yep.
This is for other people.
Yep.
We played together in junior. We're really good friends, and then he won a Stanley Cup with Montreal Canadiens.
Mhm.
And then after he was done in the NHL, he went and played in Europe for a long time, and then he started coaching. So he was with the club EV Zug.
Yep.
So with his assistant coaching job, he also ran a program which was the EV Zug or Zug, whatever you call it, academy.
So you said this is Switzerland?
Yeah.
So just for this is
Yeah.
population 8.7 million in
Yeah,
Switzerland.
there
just
you go.
for some
Yeah.
context. There you
Skiing is probably a bigger
go.
sport. No, really.
Yeah, go ahead.
So so I was saying, Paulie, what's going on with that? Like, there's a ton of good hockey players coming from Switzerland, and in the last 10 years, there's been like a lot. Like, we had a first overall, Nico Hischier. Was he first or second? I forgot.
You sure it was first?
Yeah, first overall. And there's but there's a lot of good Swiss hockey players now, and they actually, Paulie got the overtime goal beating Canada in the Olympics.
Yeah. That's right.
So anyways, he's with EV Zug. So what he did, he was an assistant coach there, and he was on the the Swiss national team or World Junior team. He was a power play coach and assistant coach, and but he also was a director, or not, I wouldn't call it director, but he was a skills coach for the EV Zug Academy.
Really?
Yeah, so they had like the like, it's like we talked about in soccer. They had the national team or the international team or the pro team, whatever they call it there. I forget what the terms are.
Yeah.
And then they have the B club, and then it works its way down.
Right. That's kind of what I was pointing at.
Webby was telling me that when he was in Sweden as well, he was playing for Frölunda after he was done in Buffalo,
Mhm.
and he said it's the same thing. They have that club, the pro team, junior team, club teams. So I think that system, right? You learn how to play
Right.
within that system. So maybe that's one way. And what you have something to say?
Yeah. So I just pulled this up real quick. I don't know how accurate these numbers are. So this is Statista. That's the website. Number of registered ice hockey players in 2021, 2022. So by country. So U.S. 551,000. Canada 513,000.
More in the U.S. than
More-
Canada?
yeah.
No. Well, there's more people.
More
I guess,
people. Russia 100,000. Finland 66. Sweden 61. Czech 34. Swiss 29. Then Germany, France, Japan, China, Great Britain are all 20 and under. So, and where is Finland at? Like, Finland's not even on here. Latvia 7,000. Norway 8,000. Austria 7,000.
These guys are putting teams together,
Right?
man.
And then I don't know, Finland's not on here. Oh no, Finland's 66. I already said them. Sorry, Finland's a big one too. Um, but anyways, so these are the guys the place you're talking about. So you said Switzerland for poly. So 29,000 registered hockey players. Assuming these stats are right.
No, they're going to be pretty close
around, right?
Yeah.
This is as of October 2022. So in Switzerland, you have 29,000. They can come and compete against Canada, maybe win in a pool of 513,000.
The Olympics,
players,
they beat it. The Canada
right?
Olympics. I mean, they can win. They did. They're
So
not going to do it every day.
So when you talk about the structure of, like, let's say the academy thing, where it's like there's something to that development process when in the best light done correctly.
Yep.
It's like there's something
done correctly,
that, right?
So I think, okay, so let's say that they've done that. I mean, you look at the old USSR teams, right? They had their club teams too. Like they were with that organization for month after month. I mean, I'm friends with Igor Larionov, right? I've worked for him, and he was telling me that it was 11 months a year.
Yep.
11 hours a day, like in these compounds, and there was workout, train. That's extreme. Yeah. But it's a way.
Okay, so then sorry, do you have more on that? Because I got a question then for you.
Well, I was just going to say, so that's one thing. So I think there's a lot to do with maybe the way they structure it. And I think the way they structure it is because I think what happened here in Canada, like, and I can even compare Canada to the US right now, okay? I think the US does a tremendous job at trying. Like wouldn't even single it out I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying I think they do a tremendous job with it because they try. And I wouldn't just say just for hockey. If you look at when they do something, they try to do it extremely well. Yeah. Right. So like what they've done with hockey is I think the biggest push for U.S. hockey was when they won the Olympics in 1980, and then after that you saw an explosion of hockey players wanting to play hockey and getting into hockey. But I think with that system of getting to college and developing and all that stuff. But then they started the program, the U18, U17, but they put a huge focus on developing the youth. And we talked about it last one, doing the cross ice games and stuff. But my point is that there's a real system and a real desire to improve their sport. And the United States in the last, let's say since 1980, you could say it was a fluke even, but let's just say in the last 30 years, they've been producing a lot of good hockey players, like a lot of good hockey players coming from places like Arizona, right? And Florida, like places that you never thought a hockey player would come from, Texas. So something's working really well there. Yeah, and definitely. You got to give them credit for that. And I think they do. They really do follow that cross ice small area game model. And I think they put a lot of time in coaches' development and the resources, which is really good. Where I think Canada, and I hate to say it this way, but I always found Canada, like for a long time I felt this way, that Canada was kind of almost arrogant about hockey. Right. That we're just the best at hockey and we never had to fix anything. And then maybe there wasn't anything to fix at first because, just most kids played hockey and Canada ruled the NHL for a long time. And then at what point did it change? I don't really know, but I would just say this, because I don't know exactly, but I would say this, that a lot of other countries just put a lot more time into the development model. Yeah. And I don't know which one's right. Canada still produces a heck of a lot of hockey players, like really good hockey players. And so I don't know if it's right, but I think the model got lazy. And we were kind of knew everything about everything, and we didn't want to change. And you had people that were maybe put there that didn't have the right intent. And I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong, but maybe the intentions wasn't to actually develop the player; it was just to have a good job. Yeah. So
I think that's kind of a good way of phrasing it. Yeah, like it got a little lazy.
I think so.
Yeah. So then.